Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Monday. It is July the 28th. We are coming into the last couple days of July, and I look forward to an interesting show because we're going to be talking about blue jeans. We're going to be talking about fascism and Nazis. We're talking essentially about the cracking of the American mind. The people on the right now, some of them, I'm calling them plan trusters. You can call them whatever you like, but that's my term. The plan trusters believe that Obama and company, that Brennan, that Clapper, that Comey, maybe, you haven't heard a lot about Ray of late, have you? That all these folks are going to be going to jail because they all engaged in a vicious conspiracy and they subverted the American system. And people on the American left are no less out of their damn minds, because they believe that a busty blonde model is helping usher in a new era of Nazi-like Third Reich behavior. Do you know how nuts we all have to be as a nation across the board? Everybody has absolutely lost it. And then there's the people in the middle that are not voiced by mainstream media, that are not voiced by most places that are carrying out news. I read the mainstream news every single day, and what I don't see is common sense. I don't see rationality. I don't see people who have discernment. So that's where we're at. We're going to cover a slew of stories that do not seem particularly related outside of the overwhelming theme that a narrative is being sold to you if you're willing to buy it. And if you're a skeptic, then you are going to be the lone voice standing alone in a room who didn't just buy into what was being sold. I'll give you another example briefly. There is a new and renewed interest on the political left in Jeffrey Epstein, a guy that was politically hot, radioactive, untouchable for years. Why? Because we knew that it implicated a friendship with Bill Clinton, who was a scion in the Democrat Party, who was a party leader and a party elder, and someone that everybody thought was kind of like a voice that you needed on your side so you could never touch Jeffrey Epstein. Because we know there was a connection between Epstein and Clinton. Clinton is now irrelevant. Donald Trump is slightly younger, and he's currently in power, so now they're very interested. How do I know that? Because my mother-in-law just stayed with me. Nothing against her, but she is a consumer of the same left-wing propaganda that I read every single day. And she told me that she was very interested in what comes out in the Jeffrey Epstein case. Why? Why were you not interested for the last decade? Why have you not cared since 2004? Why have we not heard a rumbling about it? Because everybody is bought into nonsense. It doesn't mean that they're dumb people. It doesn't mean that they're bad people. It just means that they are the target of a very broad PSYOP. What is a PSYOP other than an attempt to psychologically influence you? It is an information op. That is a subset. And the information op is we are going to present to you the information that we think is important. And then you are going to go and act on that information because that's probably all you have time to consume in your day. If this is the only news source that you get, you are going to be deficient. I read 50 times more stories than I can present in a 1 hour period. And so I want you as a listener to generally assume that you're just getting a tiny little snapshot. It's 1 hour's worth. There's all kinds of stuff happening out there. Take whatever I say with a grain of salt on purpose. Like I know I'm giving you my perspective, which is limited to whatever I've lived on this planet and whatever I can read and whatever we have enough time to prepare for before each show. And it's not unlimited. So it's not giving you unvarnished truth. It's just giving you a snapshot of some things that I see. So that's where we're at today. We're going to have a lot of fun with it. That's kind of a long thing. We're also going to talk about eugenics. Apparently, Margaret Sanger, some of you know she was the founder of Planned Parenthood. New historians have found that she was not actually interested in eugenics, except those historians are at a now defunded agency called PBS. Anyway, So much to have fun with here. There's just like unlimited shooting gallery. I feel like I'm standing in a shooting gallery and I'm surrounded by the gallery. So we're just going to do that. All right. Let's start with Christmas in July. My friends over at My Patriot Supply, they are offering you an opportunity to prepare for whatever the worst case scenario looks like. According to the Department of Energy, blackouts could increase by 10,000% over the next few years. We have a massive demand on energy in this country, including increases in data centers that use AI. And we have an aging, fragile power grid. If you guys have seen the show Landman, you know, we live on kind of a razor's edge, and we live because of the power that we have. If you guys want to make sure that you can ensure at least some capabilities of living if the power grid were to fail around you, and we do the exact same thing here, you can check out the Grid Doctor 3300 from My Patriot Supply. I have one sitting directly outside of the studio walls. It is all about 15 feet away from me, and it powers the entire studio as a backup. If you guys want to see the Christmas in July sales event, you go to mypatriotsupply.com/Kyle. Check them out. They're giving over $1,000 in free survival gear with your purchase of the generator. It's a really neat looking piece of equipment. It comes in shipped. It's heavy, but not heavy enough that you couldn't carry it with you. You could throw it in the back of even a small car. It'll fit in the trunk. The solar panels expand out and give you opportunities to be able to grab power from the sun. What's the most powerful thing that we have near us? And that is it. mypatriotsupply.com/KYLE. Again, mypatriotsupply.com/Kyle. It is the Christmas in July bundle. Check them out. As far as I know, it's going to be ending in a fairly short period of time. You got a couple days if you guys are interested in doing this and getting $1,000 worth of free survival gear from my friends over at My Patriot Supply. Link in the show description. Let's get into today's program right now. So I'll acknowledge for those of you that are watching on the live show, and thank you so much for joining us here. Actually, let's put you guys on the screen. There you are. There's the live show audience, our folks over on YouTube, our folks on Rumble that are listening as we go. Yeah, we started a couple minutes late. I wanted to make sure I grabbed as many clips as possible. And as usual, even if I do my damnedest to be able to grab like the broadest reaching stories, I'm still only going to just skim the wave top. So today we're going to start with a kind of a, like I said, a survey of the narrative, if you will. This is part one. This was in multiple different articles from ABC, from CBS, and from NBC. I chose to go with the NBC. It had the most salacious of the headlines. Venezuelans described being beaten, sexually assaulted, and told to commit suicide during their detention in El Salvador. The men said that there were many moments of anguish and terror, and that they feared for their lives. And of course, they showed a guy who was reunited with his family in Venezuela on Tuesday after 4 months of incarceration in El Salvador's mega prison. Look at him. He's just a regular guy. He's got a teenage son, maybe, with braces. He's got a wife. He's just a regular dude who was just hanging out here illegally in America, who had no right to be in this country, who was deported because of his inability to follow basic laws, which would be like, you know, get a visa, tell the country that you're coming in, that you're going to be there, and then working illegally, and all the other things that these people do. 3 Venezuelan men told NBC News that they experienced physical and psychological torture, including one man's allegation that he was sexually assaulted after the Trump administration sent him to the notorious prison in El Salvador. Of course, they're not going to talk about why he was there. They were held for 4 months in the Counterterrorism Confinement Center, or CCOT, the Salvadorian mega prison known for its hard conditions and reported abuse. Well, I hope this story gets out wide, to be fair. I hope that everybody that's thinking about coming to this country illegally hears about it, and that they don't want to be beaten, potentially sexually assaulted, or told to commit suicide. And therefore, in order to avoid this horrible situation of being sent to an El Salvadorian prison with a bunch of terrorists, they decide to stay in their own damn countries. You know, the entire point of locking people up, it's supposed to be twofold. One, it's supposed to make sure that dangerous people, I guess it's threefold. They want to make sure that dangerous people are not at loose in open society and causing more problems. They want to make sure that person experiences a punishment of some kind and rehabilitation potentially so that they don't reoffend. And then lastly, there's supposed to be this sort of like example set. It is supposed to deter. And the deterrent nature of heavy sentences and of harsh conditions is supposed to keep people from doing the thing that they did. So this story actually does play pretty well into the hands of the Trump administration, as far as I can tell. The left is actually trying to round up lots of sympathy. Oh, this is really good. Of course they found a gay guy. Of course they did. Andre Hernandez Romero, a 32-year-old gay asylum seeker from Venezuela. When I hear asylum seeker, I actually just translate that in my brain to illegal alien that came to this country. He told NBC one day during his imprisonment that he was taken into solitary confinement where the prison staff made me kneel and perform oral sex on one person, while others groped me and touched my private parts and stroked me with their batons. I'll take things that probably didn't happen or I don't know or care about. This is completely unsubstantiated. This is what you would call journalistic rigor, right? Where you just go and you're going to ask a guy, what happened to you in this horrible prison that you were in? And he was like, I'm gay. I'm going to tell you about some gay stuff. I don't know. Maybe it's true. Maybe that's what happened to him. Or maybe not. The incident apparently left him devastated. I didn't want to eat. I didn't want to do anything, he said in an effeminate voice. The only thing that I did was lay down and look at the toilet and remember my family, asking myself millions of questions, hopefully the first of which is, why did I sneak into the United States, break their laws, and then think there would be no consequences? That would be the first question you should ask. Am I to blame for this? Do I have agency over my own life? Another detainee spoke with NBC News and said that they released him. He was also sexually abused. He said it on Venezuelan state media that he was sexually abused. He told us that when he arrived in Venezuela, he suffered abuse at the hands of the guards in El Salvador. So we knew these bad things happened. They show a picture, which I actually did not get. I got the sympathetic family picture here of Andre Hernandez Romero. He's riding on a horse wearing a multicolored, I don't know, crown, cape, rainbow thing. He looks obnoxious, and he's riding next to a guy who's wearing like a pope hat with a crucifix or a cross on the top of it. That's not sacrilegious at all. Cool. Hernandez said that he wasn't aware of any formal system at CCOT through which he could report the alleged abuse, and that if the detainees tried to complain to the superiors at the prison, they would often be subjected to beatings by the guards. Yeah, all of that is a great reason not to sneak into the United States, isn't it? Don't come here. Don't experience any of that horrible stuff. Life will be better. If you want to come to America, you have to come the right way. You have to show up. You have to ask to be there. You have to notify the country that's going to be your host. And then you have to come in under certain conditions. And then you have to leave if you are not permitted to stay longer. You don't get to just partake of our bread and our milk and our honey and our busty blonde bombshells that are selling jeans at malls around the country. I'm going to tease you guys along with this stuff. This is the Sydney Sweeney. By the way, I don't like, she's got a good body, but she's not really the thing that would lure me to go buy jeans. I guess the target market is other young women who also uptalk and want to wear essentially like pajama jeans. This is the advertisement that we're going to get to towards the end. Remember, this is supposed to be a reminder to us that we are moving towards fascism and Nazism. I'm just shrugging. I don't know how this. And yet, strangely, gay men from Venezuela and straight men from Venezuela who have families are all trying to sneak into this country to be part of this fascism. It's so horrifically bad. It's so terrible. Because of commercials like this, and because of people who would be willing to buy blue jeans because of pretty girls, that gay men from another country south of us would sneak in and risk deportation and beatings and sexual abuse, apparently. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to string you along with this stuff. We're going to just tease you.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
My body's composition is determined by my genes. Hey, eyes up here.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
So you can see that we're obviously doing homages to the Nazis with these Aryan-type blonde, blue women. That voice is awful. Somebody told her that was a good voice. Somebody actually thought that was a good idea. Like if you did it without any sound, I think maybe you could get away with it. But I'm obviously not the target audience for that. And maybe neither are you. I'll tell you what the audience is, I'm the target audience for this. This is a different kind of advertisement. This one is being done by ABC. They are referring to this as journalism. There's a picture of a child who is stroking a starvation-ridden or like a starving donkey, looks like. And this child looks like he is in really rough shape. He's wearing Western jeans, maybe even American Eagle jeans in there. The headline is, I don't know. Trump says that the Israeli claim that there's no starvation. He says of the Israeli claim that there's no starvation in Gaza. Every single mainstream news outlet are not only pushing that there are bad things happening at the Salvadorian mega prison that we should feel very, very bad about because we're Americans. We should also feel terrible about whatever's happening in Gaza. And there's mixed reporting on what that is, but not mixed photographs. All of the visuals that are associated with what's happening in Gaza are very sort of sympathy grabbing. They're either going to be a dunk on Trump, they're going to be a discussion of how bad Israel is, and none of them will talk about any sort of culpability or blame. In fact, they'll actually sort of allude to anyone who believes that is actually believing in some sort of Trumpian conspiracy, that the people who are responsible for what's happening in Gaza are the people who are actually in Gaza that elected a terrorist government that has never asked for a re-election and has been running it for 20 years. I don't know. Donald Trump said of the Israeli claim that there's no starvation. This is a byline that they decided to report out of London. Asked if he believed the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's claim that there's no starvation crisis in Gaza, Donald Trump replied, I don't know, before mentioning seeing images of starving children in Gaza that have been appearing on television. He said, I don't know. I mean, based on television, I would say not particularly, because those children look very hungry. But we're giving them a lot of money and a lot of food, and nations are now stepping it up, he said, while he was meeting with the UK's Prime Minister in Scotland. He just went on a trip out there, played some golf, blah, 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 did Trump things. One of the things that Trump does really well, it turns out, is kind of like foreign policy. And right, I guess sounds like he just got a trade deal with the EU that people are either touting or acting like it's not enough, whatever. But he's doing the thing that he promised on that one. There's not all losses, but it's incredible that he's out there. So what do they want to do? They want to go out there. Starmer, the UK's prime minister, immediately said that what's happening is a humanitarian crisis and that it's an absolute catastrophe because he has better information than the United States president. Again, he probably falls victim to this kind of propaganda. The best part was that was the sort of tame version coming from ABC News. Here's the not tame version coming from CBS. And it shows many, many people in the desert. I have no idea what this context of this photograph is, and neither do you. And neither does maybe CBS that just posted it as their lead photograph. President Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, said Thursday that the United States was cutting short their latest round of Gaza ceasefire talks and bringing home the negotiating team from Qatar for consultations after he said Hamas had issued a response that shows a lack of desire to reach a ceasefire. There's a lot actually contained in that paragraph that we should probably unpack. The headline is, Trump's envoy blames Hamas as Gaza ceasefire talks stall again, as the UN says Palestinian children are starving to death. So let's unpack both the headline and that little paragraph. We're bringing home our ambassadors, our envoys that are trying to negotiate for a ceasefire and kind of a temporary peace. The blame is being put on Hamas by the United States, and the negotiations are happening in Qatar. If you guys remember, and I actually played this for the guys at Timcast the other day, that Black Skies in Gaza thing, but Qatar is always sunny. Do you remember the kind of like joking English language AI generated spoof video? Shows the woman crying in front of a green screen with a picture very similar to what you're seeing on the screen. You know, hundreds and hundreds of people standing in the desert looking sad and hungry and destitute. And then you've got the contrast of the obscene wealth of the founders and the leadership of Hamas. They are legitimately billionaires hanging out in Qatar in the nicest hotels in the world. Right? Isn't that problematic? Do you think that the billionaire managers of Hamas, the political leaders and the founders, are particularly incentivized by the plight of the people that are there? Because I don't. Because they're in Qatar. That doesn't touch them. That video that we showed, which was obviously kind of a parody video, and like I said, AI generated, showed lobster and, lavish vehicles and pools and having room service. It's kind of a different animal to have all that at your beck and call, to choose to live like that when you are, quote unquote, leading a bunch of people that are starving in the desert, like you see the picture on the screen. I just don't think they're that incentivized. And the reason that they have power and the reason that they're able to do the things that they do seems pretty intensely tied to the international outrage that people are starving. And they have nothing. We brought home our negotiating team because our claim, the United States claim, which is not a party to either side, it turns out. We may support Israel, but at the end of the day, there's plenty of people in this country that want to see just humanitarian relief given to people who are in a bad spot. The leaders at Hamas are not interested in a ceasefire. That would make a lot of sense to me. I can't suss out what's true or what's false, but what I can suss out is that our leftist media friends at ABC, at CBS, and how about this one, from NBC, are really painting a very sympathetic picture to people that are not necessarily my allies and don't seem to take care of themselves very well. It's not my job to take care of them, in the same way that it's not my job, I told you the other day, to send $17,000 to build a well in Tanzania. It's not my problem. This is not my tribe. This is not my people. There's all kinds of problems. If I'm interested in starving children or people with bad outcomes, I can walk out of my door. I can drive 20 minutes away and get into downtown Austin and see homeless military veterans who may be scumbags. They may be actually scumbags. There's plenty of people that serve in the military that are not great, by the way. To assume that veteran equals like saint status is probably the opposite. There's a lot of vets that are just like dirtballs. And some of them are heroin addicts, and some of them made terrible choices. Some of them are, abusive husbands. Some of them are criminals. They had no other choice, and they became criminals before, after, and during their time in the military. But at least they signed up to serve my country, and they're part of my environment. This lady on the screen here that you're seeing, this is coming from NBC. I have nothing to do with her. I'll never meet her. Under any circumstance, there's no reality where that woman crosses paths with me. Israel allows a trickle of new aid into Gaza, but warns that it's not enough to stave off the famine. That's what the UN is saying. Again, the UN, a group that I almost feel like we should just pull out of and defund, kick them out of New York, in the same way that I don't believe in NATO anymore. This is the legacy of 2020 for me. I was already pretty close, but I don't like the federal government. Why would I like an international governing body that seems to basically take all of our money and then try to shame us into more? I got no use for him. This is NBC News reporting this. Israel is allowing a trickle of aid into Gaza. Trump signaled on Monday that he disagreed with Israel's claim that there's no starvation. Those children look hungry, he said, in a very short little snap bit they grabbed. What they are apparently doing is allowing for a new round of tactical pauses. They are ceasing hostilities in Gaza in order to allow certain periods of time for the folks in Hamas to be able to administer aid to their people. The United Nations Emergency Relief Coordinator, Tom Fletcher, said this is progress, but vast amounts of aid are needed to stave off famine and a catastrophic health crisis. Perhaps so. What the hell does that have to do with me? The answer is nothing, but I'm telling you, it is across every single mainstream news outlet that I look at. NBC, ABC, CBS, the big three, CNN. They're all covering it. It's a top line story that we have to care about what's going on. And every single one of them shows sympathetic pictures. They don't show pictures from October 7th. They don't show any sort of hostilities that happened at any of the checkpoints. It's all sympathy, 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 God forbid. And none of these people look like my people. I'm just saying. And it's not about the physicality of it. It's like they have a different culture. They obviously have different value for human life. And their leaders are billionaires. Why are there people who lead the organization in Gaza that have billions of US dollars? Period. That's the end of the question. Why are there billionaires that run an organization, and why are they not located with their people? Why are they expats hanging out in luxury hotels? It doesn't make any sense to me. Why should I care at that point if you don't even care about your own people? And that seems very, very true to me. Again, this is like the war of the people who don't eat bacon, so not my problem. And for whatever that's worth, I don't care that much enough. But it becomes abundantly clear to me that if you are going to make the campaign promise of America first, it's not even enough anymore. America only is the position that I hold on to. I'm actually in the camp of people who want to do blue jeans and Sydney Sweeney, even with her annoying voice. I'm more into that than any of the other things. Like, I just don't care. And it's amazing that I'm being told to care because I read these news outlets. And I can imagine if that's what you were bombarded by and you didn't go out there with a cynical point of view or that sort of like attempt to see through what is being sold, maybe I would be really moved and mad, and maybe I'd be in the street. Because we're going to see, and we have seen, people on the political left that will do absolutely nothing for these folks other than raise their voice in outrage. It's all really, really effective. Because lying to you it seems like the point. That's the point. We have to act like whatever it is that you have and whatever's going on in your life is bad. You're the problem. And we're going to play on your sympathies. I'm going to show you guys something that came from this is from a thing called Fire Aid. You remember that people in our country recently suffered pretty dramatically. In Los Angeles, we had a huge wildfire that burned through and a lot of people were left without their stuff. We've moved on from that. Only a couple of weeks ago, a bunch of people in Central Texas lost their homes, lost their loved ones, lost their children. Is that front and center? Is that something, even though it's right down the street from me, is that what's leading the national news? No, it's Gaza. Who cares? Seriously, who cares? We have enough things that we could spend all of our dollars on locally and still never solve all the problems that exist, even in our own country. And we're busy throwing money out there. I have to believe that other people profit from that. I have to. And it keeps you distracted because nobody wants to solve the problems at home. This is Fire Aid. This is what Gavin Newsom was touting. There was a bunch of celebrities that got together. They raised $100 million, which actually turns out to be not that much money when you're talking about multi-million-dollar homes burning. But yeah, for the people that lost like regular houses, you know, like $750,000 houses in California, could be a big deal. Except all that money was a grift. Apparently none of it went to the people who actually needed it. Kind of like when you send foreign aid to Hamas, it doesn't actually make it to the people that are starving, like that lady that was on the screen. Doesn't it all seem like everybody is just trying to scam you? It just makes you the most nasty cynic, and it makes me stop caring, and it's made me stop caring because I don't anymore.
Everyone, please go to fireaidla.org and give what you can. All of the money raised will go directly to people who need it now and towards long-term efforts to build the communities back.
That's how Fire Aid sold itself to millions of viewers, a benefit concert for wildfire victims. Today, many have doubts.
I think they'd be very disappointed.
David Howard lost 2 homes in the Palisades.
I have not seen any benefit from the Fire Aid money, nor have, and I'm very involved, nor have my friends and neighbors.
Go to the website and give what you can. All the money that's raised will go directly to people who need help in the short term and for the long term effort to get this city back on its feet.
Fire Aid's website says the concert raised $100 million for direct relief. Yet it told Fox LA Fire Aid does not have the capability to make direct payments to individuals, and that was never the plan. We partnered directly with trusted local nonprofits to reach communities in need.
Did you think that you would actually get direct money?
I did, as with, I'm sure, most Altadenians. The Fire Aid was for us, so we figured, where's the money? Where is it going?
So far, 75 of the $100 million went to 188 nonprofits, getting grants up to $500,000 each. Some are established, others are obscure. The Armory Center offers financial assistance to the arts community, but didn't respond when we asked how many artists it helped. Nor did the Sweet Relief Musicians Fund tell us how many musicians it assisted. The Instituto de Educación Popular del Sur de California.
I just want to leave it that of him just anglicizing some Spanish there. How about that, right? The purpose is to use tragedy to enrich NGOs that pay a bunch of salaries of people that need to make money on the being an NGO, but don't ever do anything. Kind of sounds like what the US aid money was, doesn't it? Kind of sounds like the entirety of our foreign aid programs. And I kind of thought that's what we were going in to get rid of. I thought that's what this administration was about. But instead, this administration has some wins. There's no question in my mind. My 401k is as high as it's ever been with limited contributions. So great. The stock market is good. And if you actually have some money, you're probably doing better in that market. But the inflation is still high and the costs are still high. We can see things as some wins and some losses. You can't walk out there and just say everything is doom. But the things that are going to kill this country, long term, is the scam and the fact that Americans are waking up and they're not going to buy it anymore. As much as anything else, probably the single most dangerous and detrimental thing that has happened since 2020, in the 5 years since then, has been people who would have signed up to die for this nation looking and saying, I'm not sure it's worth saving. There's a lot of people that are in my boat. I signed up to be in law enforcement because I believe that people should be protected, because I thought there are bad people out there. I'm physically and mentally capable of going finding them and doing something about it. I signed up in the military when I was 27. I had a full-time job that paid well. I lived in Los Angeles. I lived like the dream in some ways. I had no responsibilities. I made really good money. I rode to work on a motorcycle every day. My boss was super cool and would go out and have beers with me. It's pretty good. But I wasn't serving anybody. I wasn't adding any value to society, and I thought that I should do that. How are you going to take people that have traditional, like regular American values, like my life should mean something and I should serve a purpose bigger than myself, and tell them that purpose is the United States government, when the government doesn't do the thing that it actually promises to do? And more people, more quickly than ever before, have been aware of it. I'm one of them. Many of you are too. How many of you would tell your kids to go sign up for the military just because the Trump administration is in? We found out over the weekend that the DOD has had thousands and thousands of people that they kicked out over involuntary COVID separations. And they did a study on it. And this is former Colonel, what's his name, Schuler, that came back. He was the Marine that was kicked out. Was, like, by all accounts, did the right thing, suspendable 100%. And he released this post on X, and I read it the other day, and I'm sitting there in the hotel room after waiting to come home from Timcast. And he said, we had thousands of people kicked out. We were only able to assess that like 750 of them wanted to come back in. I think it was like 741. I'm trying to remember the numbers. And we've only been able to get like 40 of them into the military. Most of them chose not to after being told the situation. We have a 2.3% return rate of people that were kicked out involuntarily over COVID, because it was all a lie. And what he said in that post, which was so telling, at least he was being honest, thank God for that. He said there's going to be no accountability for the people that followed illegal orders, that did the wrong thing. All those people are going to maintain their commands. Every single one of them is going to retire and get an honorable discharge after ruining the life of some of you out there and people that I know. They're going to be fine. The system will continue. They're not fixing it. They didn't believe that personnel is policy, even though it was talked about in the campaign. It was talked about by people who now run the FBI. They didn't go fix the policy problem. So how are you going to send your sons and daughters to go serve in that administration of any kind? How are you going to send them into federal jobs? People ask me all the time. They send me emails to info@kyleserafin.com. Kyle, my son wants to go be in the FBI. I've always thought about investigating. Would I be a good fit for the FBI? F no. The answer is no. What is wrong with you? You're looking at a guy that can tell you definitively, this government does not care about you. It doesn't love you. And if you love it, you might be part of the problem. You shouldn't have any trust in these people, even the ones that are supposed to be on our team. And the reason I know that is because they're not fixing the problems. They're running around and acting like they are. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of that. Before we get started with that, let me just reiterate my general distrust, which includes everything from TSA, which I finally got to walk through some of their detectors and keep my boots on. God forbid. I had to take my belt off in Austin, but I could keep my belt on when I was going away from Austin, leaving from Dulles. Anyway, if you don't trust these people and you don't want them to scan your stuff and you want to be able to keep your equipment safe from prying eyes, you can get yourself a Faraday bag, sleeve, etc., pants, if you're so inclined. Got another one here on this one is for law enforcement. If you guys are in the business of sensitive site exploitation, if you're still doing that job and you still believe in it, check out my friends over at Silent. Between big tech and government and corporate America, criminals and scammers and thieves and your fellow Americans and terrorists and whatever else, anybody that's trying to get access to your equipment, your device, your signals, You can block all that. You can stop it. You can protect them, and you can make yourself invisible to all the people as you walk through the world. You can shut down your RF signatures from your Bluetooth, from your Wi-Fi, from your phone that is actually just searching and pinging for cell phone connections. With Silence Faraday products, they block all incoming and outgoing signals to your devices, making them effectively invisible from the grid, safe from the outside world. They have outstanding backpacks. It's actually the backpack that I carried to go to Timcast. Fit all kinds of stuff in my E3 Everyday Faraday backpack. It is an outstanding piece of equipment. It's comfortable. It's well thought out. I was able to get 2 different changes of clothing, plus all kinds of electrical equipment, plus my laptop, plus an extra keyboard, plus all the chargers and power stuff that I need to bring with me, extra batteries and so on. Microphones, little handheld rig to be able to do some filming if I wanted. I ended up not having time, but check out the one that you see on the screen right now, the Everyday Faraday backpack. You can go to it's slnt.com, slnt.com/Kyle. Make sure the promo code Kyle is filled in at checkout. You save 15%. That is not an insubstantial amount of money. They don't make the cheapest products out there. They make the best ones that I've seen. I've worked with a lot of different Faraday stuff when I was in the bureau. They almost all fail. They almost all have what are called leaks. In other words, they don't have good overlap in their Faraday cage, and so you end up having the signals squeak out somewhere. That's not the case with Silent. They test all their stuff. They've got military contracts and law enforcement as well. So the people that we don't trust also don't trust you, and they're using this stuff. Check out Silent. Again, it's silent.slnt.com/KYLE, 15% off. You'll get free shipping on qualified orders. There's a link in the show description there. Let's push on to this other thing. Again, the narrative continues to be, you need us. Look for us. We're here to help. Kind of interesting. I even see a lie in this. This story is from a Michigan Walmart. It happened over the weekend. A suspect was detained by a group of citizens, including one with a gun. You're seeing the one with the gun. I think his name was Derek Evan, something to that effect. We'll scroll through the story here. Let me read the headline. Suspect is facing terrorism charges in the alleged stabbing of 11 people at Walmart. Now, terrorism almost always is a federal charge. You guys would know that because the FBI constantly touts their wins. If this was terrorism and pre-plotted and planned, where was that $11 billion FBI that we pay so much money for to stop terrorism before it happens? They didn't show up. They deployed resources after some guy pulled out a knife and stabbed a bunch of people. Put 11 people in the hospital. I think 5 or 6 of them were in critical, 5 or 6 of them were in stable condition. When I was looking at it, it doesn't seem like anybody died, at least not yet. Why is he facing terrorism charges? And why didn't our $11 billion safety net save us? And the answer is really simple. It's human nature. You can't read a man's heart. You don't know what kind of crazy things someone might do. They're going to go do whatever they decided. And that's why you got to carry a gun. Really simple. You'd be foolish not to. This guy, although his firearms handling is questionable, his sideways cocked gangster hold is bad. I don't know why he's that close to someone. By the way, you should never get that close to somebody with a knife with a gun like that. Absolutely not. Put him on their face. I don't know why the guy's still standing, because he was carrying a knife when they held the gun on him. They talked him into disarming himself. If you guys want to know what the standard is, the DOJ actually has the standard. It is within the constitutional bounds for all federal law enforcement. You might as well just memorize the FBI's deadly force policy if you're an individual private carrier of a firearm. If somebody presents themselves as imminent danger, that means right now. That means they have the weapon right now, or they are attempting to grab the weapon right now, or they are engaging in a behavior that could cause, or looks like there's probable cause to believe that it will cause imminent danger of death or serious physical injury to you or someone else. That pretty much flies. Go out there and read your local state laws. Make sure you take a class in it. Go ahead and take a concealed carry class. Have somebody instruct you in it. Talk to an attorney if you're so interested. But that is the broad-reaching general definition of what self-defense entails. You can defend yourself. You can defend others, specifically in like American states like Texas. 42-year-old man is facing terrorism charges and assault with intent to murder after he allegedly stabbed 11 people at a Walmart in Michigan, was apprehended by a group of citizens. Citizens stopped this one. Again, not our federal and not even the state law enforcement. The suspect, who the authorities identified as 42-year-old Bradford James Guile of Sheboygan County, allegedly entered the Walmart in Traverse City, about 150 miles north of Grand Rapids, at 4:11 p.m. on a Saturday in broad flippin' daylight, and began attacking people with a folding knife. It appears these were all random acts. You can buy a folding knife at a gas station. This is not a thing you can stop, because human nature and the depravity of the human heart can happen anywhere. It can happen in Gaza, where they steal billions from people. It can happen in a freaking Walmart. Some dude takes out a pocket knife, and nobody was able to stop him right then. Bystander video that surfaced online was confirmed authentic by the sheriff, showed a group of citizens, including one who drew a handgun on the subject, forcing him to drop his knife. What they did was amazing. No, what they did is what is expected. They took care of themselves because you can't carry a cop around with you, and you shouldn't wait for them to solve your problems. The victims were 6 men and 4 women, ranged in age from 29 to 84. 3 of the victims were in their 80s, 1 in his 70s. Some old people constituted a chunk of it. I expect people in their 20s and their 30s to be able to step up and see somebody with a knife and solve that problem. We have one sitting right here. We have a solution sitting right here. My friends over at Shield Arms make all the parts on this gun. Why are you not carrying your own firearm to protect yourself? Why is that not part of your normal life? Why is it not part of the life of people who live in Michigan? I know, because my buddy Ryan Matta lives out that way, that Michigan is not the most favorable for gun laws, but they do have things that you can carry a gun. You can make it happen. That's kind of what the Bruin decision was about. Over the past hours, we've seen encouraging signs of recovery from all the patients. It sounds like they're going to be recovering. 7 of the stabbing victims were in fair condition. 4 of them were in serious condition. Fine. We believe that he acted alone. No idea why this is called terrorism, by the way. No idea, other than it sounds good. And it stimulates people like this guy, who is the Attorney General of New Jersey, to go into insanity. They're able to do wild things because of danger. If you look at that danger and you think, the government better protect me more, you're the problem. And if your friends think that way, and there's plenty of them that do, then maybe effeminate messages like this from an attorney general who probably had to take an oath to the Constitution of the United States and the New Jersey Constitution, they don't care about that stuff. Look at this guy talking about filing suit for someone having gun-related products. Talk about demonizing an inanimate object. This is pretty amazing stuff in America in 2025.
Hey everyone, I wanted to give you a major update in our common sense fight to end gun violence. A judge just sided with us in a case against Butch's Gun World, a violin-based gun retailer that sold gun products to people in our state without doing anything to confirm they could legally possess a firearm. This included selling 1,000 rounds of AR-15 ammo, the same kind of ammo used in mass shootings across this country, to someone who purchased with cash without so much as presenting an ID. These types of suits are the reason why we've had record low levels of gun violence for 3 years running. And we're not stopping here. We sued a Texas-based company for selling bump stocks in New Jersey, bump stocks, which allow you to convert a semi-automatic weapon into a machine gun unlawfully. We sued the federal government for attempting to distribute machine guns back into our state. And we're not going to stop until we've eliminated the epidemic of gun violence in our state.
We want to stop human nature and their interest in doing damage to their fellow man, which is basically goes all the way back to Cain and Abel. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to do it with these soft hands and these very little, these strong statements, even though we violate the Constitution. That's crazy. If you live in New Jersey and that's the guy that you pay with your tax dollars to run the New Jersey justice system, that's your attorney general, what are you doing there? Seriously, what are you doing? I won't move to places like that under any circumstances. I'll leave jobs. I would never go there. I wouldn't stay there. If family lived there, under any circumstances would I go there? None. You can't make me live in New York or New Jersey. You can't make me live in Connecticut. You can't make me live in Massachusetts, California. Oregon and Washington have crossed themselves off the list. Like, if you have a ridiculous person like that who sued a Texas company for selling bump stocks, who says absolutely false things. That thing about bump stocks turns them into machine guns. That's actually been adjudicated by the Supreme Court of the United States of America as no, by a guy named Michael Cargill. Cargill versus Garland. He won. Bump stocks are not machine guns. Federal law actually defines what a machine gun is. That guy just made it up. These people will lie right to your face. So if you live there, you're engaging in a form of insanity. You're expecting something other than tyranny from a government that has told you, promised you, and run on and asked for people to sign up for tyranny, and they loved it. This is one of the first generations where liberals are kind of an interesting breed, and leftists are obviously a special version of that. Imagine this. Imagine calling yourself a liberal and voting against your own liberties. No one says you have to own a gun. But what on earth does your not wanting to have a gun have to do with me having one? It's the same attitude, and this is how we ended up here, isn't it? It's the same attitude as the COVID shots. People on the right say, I'm a vegetarian. I'm not going to eat meat. They'll go to the barbecue and they'll bring their own Beyond Burger, all right? But you can eat it. If you're a conservative vegetarian, you just choose not to eat meat. That's your choice. If you're a leftist, quote unquote, liberal vegetarian, you think no one should eat meat and you should ban it. In the same way that if you think that I should get a shot, everybody should get a shot because I said so, it's the right thing. They want to actually litigate their morality. And that's what this guy is doing. He doesn't think guns should exist, even though we have a constitutional amendment that protects them. So he thinks you shouldn't have them too. And he's willing to go and try to use the power of his state to crush it, even though everything about that is illiberal. It's really wild. That attitude continues to permeate our federal government, which is by and large operated by people that vote on the left, that hold leftist ideologies. What do they say? Something like 96% of government workers vote left. And there are some in law enforcement that go the other way, but they're still the minority. Here's the old boss of the FBI. I would argue the same boss of the FBI, because I would say that no matter who you put in that chair, you get Jim Comey. And it doesn't matter whether you put Robert Mueller, it doesn't matter whether you put Louis Freeh, it doesn't matter whether you put Chris Wray or you put Kash Patel in the seat of the FBI director at the top of the FBI, theoretically the top of the food chain when it comes to law enforcement in this country. At least they believe that themselves. Plenty of evidence otherwise. This is Chris Wray talking about the same damn thing that I heard Dan Bongino say. There are countless level 9, level 10 threats that they are dealing with every single day. This is Chris Wray in sworn testimony talking about the quote-unquote threat environment. It's the same reason why people in Michigan might tell you that this guy with a pocket knife is terrorism. Because when you're scared and you're worried about threats that are beyond your control, like terrorism is something that one man cannot address. Like I can address a dude with a knife. If you have a pocket knife and you want to stab somebody, I'm going to put a couple of 147 grain jacketed subsonic hollow points in between your T-box and I'm going to turn your off switch off. Blip. We're going to shut you down. That's the goal. We're going to put a couple of them in center of mass and make you stop moving. So you stop stabbing people. We can affect that change. But terrorism sounds like too big of a global concept. We might need like an agency to solve terrorism. And threat environments, that's where terrorism comes from. The same people are running these organizations, and they are the people that work there. They are not the heads of it. You think these are Chris Wray's words?
So what I would say that is unique about the environment that we're in right now in my career is that while there may have been times over the years where individual threats could have been higher here or there than where they might be right now, I've never seen a time where all the threats, or so many of the threats, are all elevated all at exactly the same time. That's what makes this environment that we're in now so fraught, and why funding our men and women who are working shoulder to shoulder with state and local law enforcement and other partners every day makes it even more important, not less.
So, blinking red lights analogy about 9/11, all the lights were blinking red before 9/11. Apparently, obviously, all of us missed it. Would you say that there's multiple blinking red lights out there?
I see blinking lights everywhere I turn.
Everywhere I turn, it's blinking lights. It's just nonstop threats. That's what we need all of your money. We need you to continue letting us do our job to keep you safe, even though it's just a guy with a gun who's got dreadlocks that's going to actually stop you from a quote-unquote terrorist with a pocket knife. Even the wins that they tout, they're not even their wins. Here's another good one. You ready? The Justice Department shut down the dark web child abuse sex sites that had 120,000 members and millions of files on it. That sounds pretty good. Operation Grayskull dismantles 4 dark web child abuse sites. 18 offenders have been sentenced to over 300 years in prison. That actually sounds like a win. How about that? Way to go, Department of Justice. Way to go, FBI, right? Kash Patel for the win. Dan Bongino, Dash Pongino are getting it done. This is our guy. Yeah, and that's good. But this is the transactional business of the FBI. Long-term, slow investigations that would result in 18 people being arrested. You know, the sites had 120,000 members. But 120,000 people didn't go to jail. It sounds good. You know what it sounds like? keep funding us. When FBI agents arrived outside William Spearman's home in a quiet suburb of Madison, Alabama, in November of 2022, they were prepared for danger. Their search warrant was so important to the Bureau that it was approved by the director himself. And when the agents breached Spearman's door with tactical explosives, he fought back, tussling with the agents as 3 of his handgun remain barely out of reach. So he was unarmed. That's what that means, just so you know. Spearman fought back. He attempted to get access to his handguns. The FBI managed to cuff him and arrest him, a high-value arrest in what the top Justice Department official called one of the most successful prosecutions of his kind. His arrest in 2022, his guilty plea a year later, and eventual life sentence were part of an unprecedented takedown of a prodigious child abuse network. Okay. I took one thing away from that. He was arrested in November of 2022. Who was president in November of 2022? Who was the FBI director in 2022? When he was convicted a year later, who was president of the United States in 2023? Who was the FBI director in 2023? You see? I saw Patel and Pongino roll out, claim credit, Operation Grayskull. It sounds cool. It sounds like some He-Man stuff, doesn't it? Interesting. Because it didn't happen on their watch. They actually go on further to say that the investigation, Operation Grayskull, launched in 2020 under the first Trump administration, which is to tell you that the FBI does some good, obviously. Our federal law enforcement is not completely useless, but if you want to know who was probably, and I'm just going to speculate here, I lived for 5 months with a guy that spent 8 years doing this. That doesn't mean I know what he knows, but we talked about what he did for a living. And for 8 years with the FBI, he was one of the lead analysts, and he is a noted national expert on dark web technology and dark web child sexual assault or child sexual abuse stuff. He worked in Lithicum, Maryland, in the FBI's VCAC unit, Violent Crimes Against Children. They operated most of the child sex trafficking sites on the dark web as like a honeypot, if you will. They would operate the sites and they would try to catch the users. If they were domestic to the United States, they would try to get them. So the fact that they shut down these websites means that they probably were running them since maybe 2022, when they took this guy down. If he was the one that was behind some of them, they probably ran them for several years. And they're just now announcing that they shut them down. That means that they continue to distribute this stuff in the same way that they let guns get bought and walked off. It's called a buy walk. That means that somebody comes in, buys a gun, quote unquote, illegal gun, whatever, bad guy buys a gun, not supposed to have it. Same thing with drugs. They come in and buy the drugs. It's a buy walk. We want to see where the drugs go, so we allow it in. They do the same thing with child sexual assault material. Buy walk. Except it's just called something else. It's a online operation. Spearman is one of 18 people convicted so far, Lee, for utilizing the dark web to share hundreds of thousands of unlawful sexually exploitive images of children. The DOJ is a part of that, just in the same way that you heard Robert F. Kennedy talk about how, if they're being really honest about it, the Department of Human Services, Health and Human Services, was actually complicit in allowing a bunch of children, like hundreds of thousands of children, to come into this country and get handed off to God knows who, because they just didn't want to be responsible for it. The DOJ at least is trying to grab these people, the bad guys, but they can't stop the ones that are outside of the country. Isn't that something? How are we any better than any of this stuff? Like I said, if you believe the things that are being sold to you, then you are the mark. And the other story is this one. This is the last story before we get into the sexy videos of Sydney Sweeney. Is it funny that her initials are SS and they're calling her Nazi? Is that funny? That's funny to me. Former prosecutors, everything about the Justice Department interview of Ghislaine Maxwell looked unorthodox. I said this on Timcast on Friday as well. Usually what happens when you have done something bad is that you are offered a deal prior to you being convicted of the thing that you did, and you turn over people. Apparently nobody was interested in that. Or maybe there was nothing there. That's also a possibility. But now in a show and theater, and by the way, this picture of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein together with Ghislaine Maxwell, that is CBS News trying to smear the current president, because everything is all about information and image and how do we connect these people in the mind. Right now, the political left loves this. CBS is covering it on purpose. She's someone who's been sentenced to court by a court for 20 years in prison, and she's likely desperate to get out from underneath that sentence. As a former Justice Department pardon attorney and a federal public defender, it's hard to believe that the Justice Department would rely on anything that she might have to say. That's true. It's also crazy to think that the number 2 in the DOJ would go and personally do the interviews. for like a weird proffer. Apparently, she's seeking a pardon, although no one knows that that's been said specifically. They're saying that theoretically, she could try to negotiate a pardon for a thing that she's already done in order to get names. But all of this looks like political theater to me because she was already convicted of something and it had nothing to do with anybody else's names. And now she suddenly has something and now people are suddenly interested in asking about it. Anything to turn away the possibility that the people who have been lying to you for years about what they had and what they knew are currently running the situation. You got podcasters and Fox News people running this administration. And apparently they didn't know anything. Over the weekend, Dan Bongino put out a post on X that said that the things that he's seen at the DOJ, at the FBI, have shocked him to his core. Why would he say that? What is that all about? What does that even mean, shocked him to his core? It's absurd. There's nothing that could have shocked him to his core. He supposedly knew what the problem was and the depth of the problem. He's been told by people for the last couple years. This video clip is blank at the start. I'm pretty confident this is something else. I want you to listen to the words of this. This should be Sean Hannity. If not, I'll have to go dig into my archive and pull it out. But shocked him to his core is what Dan Bongino said.
So what I would say that is unique about the environment that we're in right now, and Mike.
It's the same damn one I just had a second ago. Let me grab the proper video clip for us. The words are very specific. We played you a clip not too long ago of this one guy talking about something that some of us should remember. It was the FBI director, and he was using the exact same words, right, as the previous FBI directors. And it makes you wonder who's writing these scripts, who's putting this information out. Is it all just made up? Is it theater? Is there people that are still working there that continue to do the day-to-day operations that are putting these talking points out there? Okay, remember, shocked him to his core.
With you, your breaking new news tonight about Andrew McCabe. Let's start there and work our way back.
What we know tonight is that FBI Director Christopher Wray went Sunday and reviewed the 4-page FISA memo. The very next day, Andrew McCabe was asked to resign. Remember, Sean, he was planning on resigning in March. That already came out in December. This time, they asked him to go right away. You're not coming into the office. I heard reports he didn't even come in for the morning meeting, that he didn't show up.
A source of mine told me tonight that when Ray read this, it shocked him to his core.
Shocked him to his core. And not only that, the Inspector General's report, I have been told tonight by a number of sources.
1.2 million pages already handed over to Congress.
Correct, 1.2 million pages. But there's indicators right now that McCabe may have asked FBI agents to...
Shocked him to his core. The same words were used about FISA abuse. Dan Bongino shocked to his core by corruption. So was Chris Wray in 2018 when he was a new guy on the block there. And then he said people must be held accountable. It gives me the same vibes. Using the exact same verbiage as the person that held the office before you or the person above you. Why is Dan Bongino using the same words as Chris Wray? And Kash Patel is using the same words as Chris Wray and Comey. Why? Because they're not in charge of this thing. And they never have been. And apparently, they forgot that personnel is policy, and the people that are whispering in their ear, like Grima, like Wormtongue. Do you remember this character from The Lord of the Rings, folks? There was a guy that was whispering in the ear of the king, and his words came out of his mouth. The advisor, this is an age-old thing. Go back and watch Aladdin, the Disney movie. We made reference to it the other day. Jafar, the Grand Vizier, he hypnotizes the king, and the king says the words of the vizier, the real power behind the throne. It's the same thing in federal agencies. Do you think these guys know what the hell they're doing? That's how you end up with this.
So what are your colleagues saying about this, that you're going to get out of the Hoover building?
We need a new headquarters very, very badly.
New headquarters proposal that we have.
This FBI is leaving the Hoover building.
He just gave up a big nugget.
For about a decade now, the FBI has been working on plans to move various functions and headcount to out of the National Capital Region.
If our people are going to be safe,
Because this building is unsafe.
be effective, and if we're going to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money,
And being good stewards of the taxpayer dollars,
we got to get them all in a modern, safe, efficient FBI headquarters.
we're going to give you a building that's commensurate with that. And that's not this place.
And so there is a big sum asked for in our budget to support that.
We're always going to fight for our personnel and for as much money as we can get.
He just gave up a big nugget.
We
there.
want.
Here it is. During my tenure here as the deputy director of the FBI, by the way, he's been there 19 weeks, which is 2 weeks less than a Quantico Academy class spends. So he hasn't even been there as long as it takes to train an agent. I've repeatedly relayed to you things that are happening, may not be happening visibly, but they are happening. The director and I are committed to stamping out public corruption and political weaponization of both law enforcement and intelligence operations is a priority for us. But what I have learned in the course of our properly predicated and necessary investigations into these aforementioned matters has shocked me down to my core. Oh, really?
With you, your breaking new news tonight about Andrew McCabe. Let's start there and work our way back.
What we know tonight is that FBI Director Christopher Wray went Sunday and reviewed the 4-page FISA memo. The very next day, Andrew McCabe was asked to resign. Remember, Sean, he was planning on resigning in March. That already came out in December. This time, they asked him to go right away. You're not coming into the office. I heard reports he didn't even come in for the morning meeting, that he didn't show up.
A source of mine told me tonight that when Ray read this, it shocked him to his core.
Shocked him to his core. And not only that.
Shocked him to his core. You guys get it? Didn't even show up for work. He was so upset. Oh, wait, didn't Dan Bongino not show up to work? He was so upset over Epstein and Bondi. This is all bullshit.
He just gave up a big nugget.
There it is. That's the big nugget. This is scripted. This is just theater. This is WWE wrestling. It continues to be. It's so fake. But at least Obama's going to go to jail, right? Remember, what did he say? We're going to stamp out public corruption and the political weaponization of law enforcement. They're properly predicated investigations.
You on presidential immunity would apply to former President Barack Obama and what you're accusing him of doing.
It probably helps him a lot. Probably helps him a lot, the immunity ruling. But it doesn't help the people around him at all. But it probably helps him a lot. He's done criminal acts, there's no question about it. But he has immunity, and it probably helps him a lot.
Okay, so the same guy that's out there posting on True Social that Obama is in the Ford Bronco, right? The white Bronco, like OJ, and like everybody's following him, and OJ's out there, and he's the OJ version of Obama. You remember that OJ got away with it at the end? Do you remember that he was acquitted? Trump just said that Obama has presidential immunity. And Newsmax is doing this very serious understanding of what's going on from a Trump advisor.
It should shake every single American in their shoes. I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016. We must, absolutely must, hold every one of these criminals accountable for the crimes that they committed. They are the most heinous crimes committed in American history. James Comey, John Brennan, Clapper, Rice, Biden was in the meeting in July 28th in the Oval Office. They briefed Barack Obama on Hillary Clinton's plan to, quote, tie Trump to Russia collusion lies. It consumed our national discourse for 5 years. It undermined a sitting duly elected president. It sabotaged administration. It framed a 3-star general. It destroyed and ripped this country apart.
And nobody is going to jail. You heard it here. You should already know it. You know how no one's going to jail? Because nobody went to jail last time and Trump was already president once. Do you know the only person that might go to jail is Donald Trump? Because these people are ruthless and they just keep pushing, which is why even after the Bruin decision and even after the bump stock decision, after Cargill versus Garland, they still had no problem claiming that bump stocks are machine guns and we're going to sue people for gun-related products in New Jersey because these people don't care. They're about progress against their goals. And if you believe in the Constitution, You're playing by rules. This goes back to the oldest thing that we've said in this program. Republicans are playing chess or checkers. It doesn't matter which one. And like progressive liberals are doing the same thing that they've always done. They play demolition derby. They just make shit up to go along and they do not care. And we thought we were putting people in that understood it. Where is this guy? Because I swear nothing could shake this guy to his core if he actually believed the things that he said on his podcast every single day. I'm not just dunking on the man. He is in a position to do real good. Here he is praising my friend Garrett O'Boyle, who's at like 1,035 days unpaid.
Did you hear these words yesterday? Absolutely chilling final words. This is FBI agent Garrett O'Boyle. They're wrapping up the hearing yesterday. And I got to tell you, this guy was amazing. All of them were good. Marcus Allen, Steve Friend, good friend to the show, no pun intended. Just amazing guys. But I got to tell you, Garrett O'Boyle, an FBI agent who was just ruthlessly and relentlessly targeted by the FBI after he blew the whistle about a bunch of malfeasance that was going on, political targeting and all this other stuff. They moved this guy, and then they held on to his belongings, and they leaked about him to try and just destroy this guy's life. Chilling words. This is how he left the hearing yesterday. I want you to hear it yourself. Check this out.
The FBI will crush you. This government will crush you and your family if you try to expose the truth about things that they are doing that are wrong. And we are all examples of that.
I can't think of a more sobering way to end a hearing. I yield back.
Yeah, I can't either. I can't either. Think about this. This FBI entity that derives its power from you. It derives its power from you. This country runs on consent of the governed. That's not a talking point. That's a fact. This FBI that derives its power from you is turned on you completely and is now targeting you and anyone inside that tries to stop them. Can you imagine anything more dangerous and pernicious to the republic? I ask you again. Do you live in a tyranny or do you live in a republic? Because if you live in a tyranny, there is no private self. There is no private self.
Yeah. We get it. That was a lot of words. We live in a tyranny, so the answer is clear. And you went into it and you didn't do anything to fix it because the man that you just called a hero said that he was giving you a chilling message. That was episode 215 or 2015 for those of you in the Bongino army that want to go listen to it again. You know, back when things actually made sense. You're in a position to do something about it. Reinstate him now. And you know who actually helped make that problem worse, by the way? This crazy guy. This guy named James O'Keefe. If you're listening right now, tomorrow you will not hear a podcast. Tomorrow I'm going to be deposed by James O'Keefe and his lawyers because they are suing his former organization. I'm going to show you why, and then we'll end with Sydney Sweeney because I've got plenty of that fun stuff. Like I said, it's just libs being crazy. It's almost a palate cleanse in and of itself, and I'll give you a little piece of it. This is James O'Keefe's video over the weekend that he dropped out. Apparently, not only am I a Project Veritas executive, news to me, I'm also either a federal agent or federal informant. He's not real sure. James doesn't really understand how org charts are because he's never actually had a real job. The same people. This is the same conflict. Okay? Because the reason why Garrett O'Boyle was suspended was because I chose to help James O'Keefe not go to jail from that tyrannical government that now is being run, that tyrannical agency that is being run by Dan Bongino. Do you see how crazy all this little world is? We've got a reporter that's going to come and sit with me and do some like behind the scenes watching because he's like, how are you involved in all this stuff? It's like, I don't know. This is just where God put me. Here I am. This is a fun accusation. James O'Keefe's attorneys, you guys can enjoy this. This is your client being a dipshit.
An update in the Project Veritas lawsuit. Project Veritas sued me in 2023. I countersued in 2024. And finally now we are going to be deposing under oath on camera the remaining board members and executives who turned against me to find out more about what really happened in regards to my ouster at Project Veritas. Tierman said was, quote, going to war were and what the conflicts of interest were on the board of directors. And I promise you that nothing, so help me God, including federal judge shopping, will stop us from getting to the bottom of it. Speaking of FBI informants, Kyle Seraphin, the FBI agent who published my private text messages and who Matt Tierman said was, quote, going to war, and Matt Tierman was feeding him information, well, Kyle Seraphin's deposition is scheduled for Tuesday of next week, and that will also be video recorded. It continues to be one of the great...
It will be video recorded by James and his attorneys and whoever they are for whatever their purposes are, and also by me, because we're going to bring our own video recording equipment, and I'll just share it with you guys. So there'll be no podcast tomorrow. There's a decent chance that we'll just stream the entire deposition over on X, and we'll do it on Rumble because screw these people. The level of dipshittery that is involved in this is beyond belief. I hope they actually quote me and ask me a question about that tomorrow, because I don't think it's actually covered by the grounds of their lawsuit. I'm not a party to their lawsuit, by the way, folks. I'm just a witness to something. Even though I've never been to the Project Veritas videos or studios, I have no idea who ran Project Veritas, and I know like 3 Project Veritas employees. I think I know 3, maybe 4 of them. No idea. Didn't ever care. Wasn't my damn business. I was an FBI agent, then I wasn't an FBI agent, and somehow James thinks that he's going to get something juicy so he can make a stupid documentary about it, which he did say. That's his problem. All right, let's do fun stuff about American denim till we wrap it up. I know we're going a little bit long, but we're not going to have a podcast tomorrow, so we're doing this for you today. Before we do, why don't I just recommend that you guys learn how to defend yourself, make sure you're carrying the right equipment, and I'll just plug my buddies over at Shield Arms. So shieldarms.com, promo code KYLE. I think you get 5% off any of their soft goods. If you don't have like a quick responder pack and that's something you're interested in, to be able to carry extra magazines, to be able to carry medical equipment, to be able to carry comms, whatever that might look like, to carry a bag full of like bouncy balls if you need a poor man's flashbang or some sort of distractionary device, check it all out over at Shield Arms. These soft goods that they have, this is going to be like their chest rigs and their pouches and stuff. They're all sewn in-house. They're designed by Green Berets who are studs, who've done a ton of combat missions. They understand smart things. Even their junk sack, which is like this little magnetically closed fanny pack. It's really good for jogging and things like that. I carry it for other things. I carry it when I go and I do workouts. You guys might want to check into any of their products. Again, save 5%. Go look at a good American company. They're in Montana. They're out in Big Fork, Montana, which is near Kalispell. Studs making it. You're seeing it on the screen. That's actually my gun dealer, Mike, up there, who owns the store down the street from me. And they're talking about it with one of the project managers at SHOT Show. Check them out. Make sure you've figured out how to defend yourself. The government's not going to come save you. We'll go ahead and get into denim real quick right now. All right. So American denim. I got kind of curious because that's the kind of person I am. How blue jeans began and then conquered U.S. closets. This is a piece from the History Channel on the history of American denim. It's hard to imagine a more authentically American thing than a well-worn pair of blue jeans. Also, fascism. Just keep that in your head. Like most historical accounts, American blue jeans' origin story begins in France. And it started in the southern city of Nimes. I think I'm saying that correctly. In the 1600s or potentially earlier, the legend goes the weavers developed a durable fabric known as serge de Nimes. Serge de Nimes. And the word denim was said to derive from denims. So there you go. Denims. That's where denim comes from. It's a French thing. Yes? The tale gets a little tangled. How it got woven, silk, wool, blah, 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 mostly cotton now today. The current research shows that denim may have in fact been an English textile that was given a French name in order to endow it with a certain whatever they call it. Je ne sais pas. All right. So they talked about the technological developments of spinning cotton in England, immense reserves of cotton and indigo, which is how they ended up dyeing it, and it eventually arrives in the American colony well before the Revolution and the Revolutionary War of 1776. They go on talking a little bit about that. It was eventually credited to a Bavarian immigrant named Levi Strauss for introducing denim to America, although that's not exactly the case. He's just the one who made it the most popular. He does share a large share of the credit for blue jeans as we know them today. In fact, the Levi Strauss Corporation website goes so far as to claim that he is the inventor of the quintessential American garment. And I think most people would probably be righteously agreeing with it. When Strauss arrived in the United States in the late 1840s, he joined 2 of his brothers in the wholesale dry goods business based in New York City. Dry goods in those days was a variety of wares, but especially fabric. And it was one of his brother's specialties. In 1853, Strauss left by boat for San Francisco, hoping to cash in on the California gold rush that had begun 4 years earlier by establishing a branch of the family's business there. It would be another 20 years before the invention of his popular jeans. He was not the sole inventor. He gets half the honor. The other half goes to Jacob Davis, a Reno, Nevada tailor who discovered that he could make work pants more durable by adding metal rivets at strategic points. You always wonder why those are there. That's how that happened. Wanting to expand production, he approached Strauss, who had a business in the fabric supply. And so in 1872, the 2 men opened a U.S. patent application for the improvement of fastening pocket openings, and it was granted in 1873. Blue jeans had not only been born, they were actually patented. They went on to become a very durable work product. They chose the blue color because it was resistant to showing dirt for people who were miners. All this stuff is quite interesting. So what does that have to do with fascism, with Nazism? What does it have to do with the irony that I see with Margaret Sanger? Let me just play a little side by side. This is a woman who is very, very concerned about that Sydney Sweeney commercial that we led with. Here we go.
Did American Eagle just run an ad for eugenics?
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney, Casper Keynes.
Totally just talking about denim, right? Just a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman explaining how her good genes gave her personality and purity. I mean, are we really going to pretend that this isn't a little fashy-coded? Look, I'm not saying that Sydney Sweeney personally wrote this ad to revive the Third Reich, but American Eagle absolutely knew what they were doing here. You don't get to drop lines about inherited traits, blue eyes, and great genes while zooming in on somebody that could have walked straight off of a Nazi propaganda poster and expect people not to catch that reference. Good genes used to mean racial purity in fascist circles, and now it's just denim marketing. We are watching fascist aesthetics sneak back into pop culture through fashion ads, trad wife influencers, and yes, now blue jeans. If you think this was an innocent ad, you have not been paying attention.
Yeah, you have not been paying attention. So that's American Eagle's ad campaign with Sydney Sweeney, who's kind of like a busty blonde with an irritating voice and probably an equally lovely personality, being assigned some sort of eugenics message. So that's the people who wrote the ad are actually pushing eugenics. Kind of interesting coming from a lunatic leftist like that lady. I'm sure she's a lunatic because I just listened to her speak. That makes you a lunatic. If you say those things out loud, you're a crazy person. And what do you think that woman's take on, let's say, I don't know, women's rights, aka abortion, aka the right to kill your own children looks like? I bet you it's 100% overlap. I bet you she's 100% behind women's right to choose to not have a baby by killing it. And why does that matter? Because there's this one group in America that just got defunded by the federal government that has been doing it pretty massively and accounts for the majority of abortions in this country. And it was founded by this one lady. I try to remember her name. It's Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger's birth control movement and quest for the pill intersected with the rise of the eugenics movement in America, so says PBS. At a time when birth control was not publicly accepted by American society, some eugenicists believe birth control was a useful tool for curbing procreation among the weak. Oh, that sounds kind of gross. In the 20s and 30s, this is the preemptive time working up towards the eventual attempt for the Third Reich. Sanger calculated that the success of the eugenics idea gave her own movement legitimacy. What did Sanger believe? Sanger's relationship with eugenics movement was complex. It was part strategy and part ideology, says PBS. Many historians now believe that Sanger opposed eugenics along racial lines, actually opposed the belief that many eugenicists that poverty was hereditary, asserting instead that poverty, criminal behavior, and other social problems were actually due to environmental factors and not predetermined. But still, let's kill the children. That's kind of funny that they say that Margaret Sanger is not responsible for her own take on eugenics and the attempt to kill undesirables, like the Nazis did. You can go to Planned Parenthood's website. It's plannedparenthood.org/about-us, who we are, our history. And you'll find the following: the history of Planned Parenthood. In 1916, the idea of Planned Parenthood began its first birth control clinic in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Today, there are nearly 600 Planned Parenthood health centers. Margaret Sanger. Planned Parenthood traces its root back to a nurse named Margaret Sanger. She grew up in an Irish family of 11 children in Corning, New York. Her mother, in fragile health, had many pregnancies, including 7 miscarriages, died at the age of 50 from tuberculosis, blah, 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 blah. Sanger believed in eugenics, an inherently racist and ableist ideology that certain people are unfit to have children. Eugenics is the theory that society can be improved through planned breeding for desirable traits like intelligence and industriousness. In the early 20th century, eugenics ideas were popular among highly educated, privileged, mostly white Americans. Margaret Sanger pronounced her belief in and alignment with the eugenics movement many times in her writings, especially in the scientific journal Birth Control Review. At times, Sanger tried to argue for eugenics that was not applied based on race or religion, but in a society that is built on the belief of white supremacy, physical and mental fitness are always judged on the basis of race. Eugenics, therefore, is inherently racist, and our founder was inherently racist, and we are inherently racist because we at Planned Parenthood kill more black babies than anyone else. She held the beliefs from the very beginning, and it undermined her movement for reproductive freedom and caused harm to countless people. And that's why in 1926, she spoke at the Women's Auxiliary of the Ku Klux Klan rally in New Jersey to promote birth control methods. Sanger endorsed the 1927 Buck versus Bell decision in which the United States Supreme Court ruled that it could forcibly sterilize people that it deemed unfit without their consent, sometimes without their knowledge. The acceptance of this decision by Sanger and other thought leaders laid the foundation for tens of thousands of people to be sterilized against their wills. It is effing evil. But Sydney Sweeney is the problem. Again, being lectured to by these people who think that killing off your baby is a God-given right is flippin' amazing. And that's how I know we're all being psyoped. We deserve a better psyop. We deserve better conquerors. And honestly, we deserve better grifters. Here's this lady talking about the same exact thing. I don't want you to think it was just one. I saw several of these videos over the weekend.
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda.
And there you have it, folks. It's Nazi propaganda. There's Sydney Sweeney sitting in front of a Nazi group of people that are all doing the Hitler salute, and they have a Nazi emblem in the background, and I managed to put the German, Third Reich eagle right there behind her head. That's why I had sort of a salacious thumbnail. I don't know how we live in this world. This is what got them so upset. God forbid it be white t-shirts, like pajama-fitting, not particularly sexy jeans, and a freaking awesome Ford Mustang. Clearly, they're all about Nazis.
Sydney Sweeney has very Keynes.
Okay, so that's what we got today. We're living in a fantasy realm of fools, and I'm just, that's all I got. I don't know how these people continue to exist, but they're on both sides, folks. The emotionality of it, the ridiculous nature of it, you basically just have to take leave of all of your senses, all of your reason, and all of your logic in order to buy any of this nonsense. That's it for our show today. Was that enough for you? Did we have fun with that? That was obviously a Nazi. Yeah, that was a Nazi Ford Mustang. What was that, like a 67 GT 350 or something like that? Perfect. Why not? I'll get all behind that. I'm blown away. Let me go to the preset here. There we go. Folks, if you want to support the program, the easiest way to do it is to just like it. If you're listening over on Spotify or any of the audio platforms and you hear ads, we're monetizing it on the audio. It actually is adding something of value, so I hope you don't mind them too much. Let me know if they get obtrusive. You can find us on YouTube. It's youtube.com/@KyleSerafin. You can also support us over on Locals. If you're so inclined, join the Locals community at KyleSerafin.com. You can be a paid member there and support and do our call-in show, which we do on Thursday nights, or you could just be a free member and be part of the conversation. If you want to share the show with a friend, KyleSerafinShow.com. We'll take them to our Spotify page. It's very easy to do. Wherever you're at, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn the notifications on if you are so inclined and you want to know when we go live. We go live at 09:30 Eastern Time. That's 8:30 here in Texas, America, every single weekday, except tomorrow when we get deposed by James O'Keefe and Company. By the way, it's Children's Law, the guy who does coffee and COVID. That's his law firm that's going to be deposing me. Should be really fun. And my buddy Steven Stambouli is going to be joining me. So for the folks that thought, hey, do you need an attorney? We have one. We're going to see what happens. And I look forward to sharing all that deposition with you guys tomorrow. Have a fantastic day. God bless all of you. Look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday. Tell the friends when they go, hey, where's Serafin? We'll see you on Wednesday.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Serafin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Serafin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram @Kyle Serafin.